Time to steer the line.
Touchdown!
Sports betting, fantasy football, and the latest NFL news. Featuring Loudesmond, Christian Giordani, Rocky Giordani, and Jeremy James. Bet on us to make you a better.
What?
Let's get ready to steer the line.
Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to another segment of Steer Line. I'm your host, Christian Giordani. Alongside with me, we have Jeremy James, our fantasy football guru. Loudesmond, the man who just spoke right now, our professional sports handicapper, and Rocky Giordani, our ex-professional athletes. Fellas, how you doing this fine afternoon?
We here.
We are here. Jeremy?
Yeah. Just dandy and delightful, thanks.
All right. Yeah. I'm traveling, as you know, Christian, running. I was supposed to meet a journalist from Columbia here that was going to join us on the show. She'd been running clips. I met her about a year ago, but she didn't make it. She said maybe next Friday. Her travel plans got messed up. So I just ran in. I'm just changed my shirt and came on. So I'm leaving in 30 minutes. I'm back on the road.
You in Mexico?
Right now I'm in Mexicali, Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah, he's down south of the border, folks. I feel a little bit left out. I'm the only one not wearing specs today. So let's go on ahead in the NFL news. Obviously, the biggest signing of the day, Odell Beckham Jr. to the Miami Dolphins. 1 year, $10.8 million guaranteed. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and now an older OBJ. Where do you rank that receiving core in the NFL, Rocky?
Well, in my opinion, OBJ is an upgrade. Absolutely, you can't say enough about it. In my opinion, he's the best hands receiver in the league still, and he's probably only got a year left.
Loud.
Well, he didn't do a lot last year, but he might be better coming off that. They're looking for him to replace Cedric Wilson Jr., who was the third receiver in Miami and now will be catching passes from Derek Carr in New Orleans because Cedric was the third receiver in Miami and now OBJ comes in. Wilson was more of a possession receiver with Miami, so they may still be looking for that. But you know what? The guy's still a threat. And you put him on the field in those three receiver sets, and there could be some spark there.
Yep. Jeremy, your opinions on OBJ going out to Miami?
It's a nice, number 3 receiver to have. I mean, last year he was supposed to be a number 2 guy in Baltimore. I don't think his numbers were completely his fault last year. There were times where they just left him on the sideline for long stretches of games. Yeah. I'm not sure if he was, beat up a little bit or worn out, but they didn't use him as much as I thought they were going to. But as a number 3 guy, hey, go ahead, cover Hill, cover everybody else. There's going to be too many guys on that field for defenses to cover. I think OBJ could have a fine season, probably catching, 50 balls there as a number 3 guy and putting up some touchdowns.
Jeremy makes a great point there, which is you're taking an aging OBJ, but forcing the other team to cover him with their third guy.
Yeah.
And that could be a problem.
That could be a real problem. And, obviously he's lost a step since New York, since Cleveland. Hell, you can even say since LA, he's lost a step. But like Rocky said, he is the best hands receiver, in my opinion, of all time. And when you just have that amount of talent.
No. The best hands receiver of all time. Sorry, Fred Biletnikoff.
There you go. Well, come on. The ball stuck to his fingers. Biletnikoff had so much stickum.
Yeah, he played in the stickum era. I don't know if we can count him.
Hard to argue with that Biletnikoff's success, but he had
but we know the stickum stories.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be sticking to him forever.
He's the reason why they don't have stickum anymore.
Coach, I look like I just jacked off an elephant.
Can you say that? I guess you can.
I guess we can on air.
Hey, thanks again to Maria Torres. She just sent me a note. Maria Torres didn't make it today, but thanks anyway.
All right.
So, listen, OBJ and went to Baltimore. They didn't use him. I don't know why. Why you would go for a guy of that talent?
It's the same coaching staff that forgot that they had a running game.
Yeah.
In the playoffs. Most important game ever. Can you run the ball in the NFL? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big loss. But OBJ Miami, I think it's a great fit. Moving on to another AFC East team, the Buffalo Bills finally got themselves another receiver, a self-proclaimed top 3 guy in the league. Chase Claypool is now a Buffalo Bill. Jeremy, I see you snicker.
Why do you run his mouth?
Dumbest thing he could have ever done on that podcast, by the way, just put that out there.
I mean, when's the last time a guy even caught a ball? I don't remember. Seriously. I mean, it's fine, but again, he's gonna have to make the team. I don't know if that guy's even he's in there bragging about how great he is. If he makes a team, he's gonna be like a 4th receiver, and that's maybe 5th, and that's not a lot considering what they have right now.
Hang on a second. Wasn't Chase Claypool good for like 5 minutes for Pittsburgh?
His rookie year, he had like 1,012, 200 yards. He had a great rookie year. And then he self-proclaimed himself as a top 3 receiver, and just fell off the face of the earth. This is what I don't get what Buffalo's doing.
No, he didn't play for the Raiders.
No. He played for Pittsburgh. No one's whatever, man.
Not yet.
I don't get it though. Buffalo, let's go with Stephon Diggs because of his attitude problem, and he puts in no effort on the field, and they trade him, pay off a good portion of his salary. And now they're just signing another guy who sucks worse than Stephon Diggs with the same attitude problem, with the same hustle problem. And they're ending up paying him $2.5 million for a practice squad contract.
Is it 1 year?
1 year, yes.
Well, that's okay then. They had to fill the spot.
Look, you're taking a chance that the guy is going to return to some kind of form and play well.
But what is Buffalo doing? They basically trade Xavier Worthy to their division. I'm sorry, not division rivals, but their rivals, the Kansas City Chiefs. And they just gutted their receiver room. They gutted their defense and aren't addressing it at all in the draft, in free agency. What is Buffalo doing, Loud?
Screwing the pooch is how I would perceive it. I understand the move to move Stephon Diggs because they moved the offense in a completely different direction. They went running game, played defense, used Josh's legs, and let's not throw the ball to Stephon Diggs 30 times a game. Stephon Diggs was not going to be happy there. He was going to be a problem. I understand why they moved him. I don't think they got enough value for him. And then why they didn't just draft Xavier themselves, I will never understand that. He would have been great for Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. And then they traded
have any idea why they didn't just keep the pick and pick him?
No, and they traded the 32nd pick, which ended up being the other Xavier. I'm blanking on his last name, who's also a pretty stud wide receiver in college, going to Carolina now.
But they got a stud wide receiver, and they got a wide receiver that they wanted in their style of play. Xavier's a great speed guy, and you know what? He's going to be, Tyreek Hill light in Kansas City. I know people are freaked out about that. But Keon Coleman is exactly what Buffalo likes in a big, tough, physical receiver who can also get down the field and has really good hands. He plays in the cold, plays in the snow. He's going to be a great number 1. In Buffalo, you had a speed guy in Khalil Shakir, and they brought in in the slot. They've got a great possession receiver in Curtis Samuel, who's played some good football over the years. So I understand what the moves they made. Maybe they didn't want the deep speed guy because he doesn't really fit their profile.
Yeah, but the problem is, Jeremy, they let him go to Kansas City.
Anyone but Kansas City.
Anybody but couldn't they send him to Carolina?
They sent another pick to Carolina already.
Couldn't they work that out? That was it's just criminal to me. Let me just put this out there, and I hope my friend Curry Myers never watches this show. I hate the Chiefs. I hate them. There is maybe one other team reserved for the hatred that I have, and that is the New England Patriots. No, I didn't hate the Cowboys because you get to laugh at the Cowboys because they never do anything. The Chiefs keep winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl, and I'm freaking sick of it, and I hate them, and I hate Patrick Mahomes, and I hate Travis Kelce, and I hate Andy Reid, and I hate the whole Kansas City. I hate everything.
I'm with
Call him
you.
Kendrick
I'm
Lamar,
beginning
you
to
hater.
dislike Taylor Swift.
No, my daughter's a Swiftie, so I can't hate Taylor
Mine
Swift.
too, but
But everything else, Kansas City. And you know what? Your barbecue sucks.
horrible.
No.
Just
We
throw
did-
it out there.
And I would just like to say that what I thought all along about Patrick Mahomes is true. He is truly a heel of a person. He showed up on Monday Night Raw and gave all 3 of the Super Bowl rings
to Logan Paul.
to Logan Paul to jump in the ring and hit somebody in the forehead with. So he is a heel. He's a bad guy, and I agree with Lou. He deserves the hate.
Yes, he deserves everything. So,
And he has an ugly girlfriend, which shows he has a lack of confidence.
Yes, he's Christian's hero.
I like Pat Mahomes.
Yeah,
I like Pat Mahomes. He's a dog. He's a winner. You gotta like winners. I don't like Kansas City though.
They let him win. If they called half the holding calls that they make on the Chiefs, he would never get a first down. They don't call any holding calls on him.
All right, you know what, Christian,
No.
you have anything else that we have to talk about? Because there is a burning question.
Ryan Tannehill to the Raiders.
Ryan Tannehill to the Raiders is not
only
confirmed
that,
yet.
I want to talk about the Raiders draft and Tannehill going to the Raiders because we have a Raiders super fan with us in Jeremy James, and he wasn't on the show last week to talk about the Raiders draft. I don't know if he heard the nice things I said about the Raiders draft. He probably didn't bother to review last week's show. I know I review every show again to make sure I catch every nuance that everyone put out. So I'm fully informed.
Yeah,
But Jeremy, your
before we
thoughts
go any
on the Raiders
farther,
draft and Tannehill.
Ryan Tannehill is not signed with the Raiders yet. He's just, it looks like it's a done deal. Nothing's done on paper.
Okay, Ryan Tannehill is going to sign with the Raiders. Jeremy, Tannehill, the Raiders, and the draft.
This is the first I'm hearing of this Ryan Tannehill stuff, and I've been on Twitter all day. I don't know where that's coming from. I have to go check it out. Really quick, I don't see the point. I don't think they need him. I don't think he beats out O'Connell or Minshew. So no, it's kind of pointless. Maybe he's just going to be a camp body. I don't know, but he's not an answer at all at quarterback. The draft I did like though. What do you do when you need a quarterback and before they get to you, all top 6 are gone? You got to pivot, and they went with one of the top offensive weapons in the draft. Whether it was a position of need, maybe not, but hey, I'm down with running some 2 tight end offense with those 2 guys that we have now. I love the Jackson Powers pick in round 2, even though he was at center. I think they're going to move him to guard, and I think he'll be fine there. And the DJ Glaze pick in the 3rd round, I know he's a bit more of a project, but we needed a right tackle. So, they added some starters and some depth possibly on the offensive line. They made some nice picks in the later rounds, adding in positions of need, got a pass catching running back. They got themselves a couple of DBs. So I think there's still some off-season signings to come for this team, especially in the secondary. But I like what they did overall in the draft, staying put, not being able to move up or down, and filling some holes with some talent.
I love what the Raiders did. Because it was so atypical. They didn't chase. They didn't give up a bunch of draft capital in future years. They're getting killed by some people for taking, a top 5 player in the draft fell to them. What are you going to do? Not pick him? And if you have a bad quarterback situation, what's the best thing that you can do in a bad quarterback situation? Run the ball and have 2 tight ends that will really befuddle the defense.
Yep.
I like what they did. And let's be honest. Are the Raiders competing for a Super Bowl next year?
Not next year, no.
No.
And just
The year
aside
after
from
that, no. They're in a 3 to 5 year rebuild. So I think you got to take the best player available because they had so many holes to fill. Now, I know they beat Kansas City late in the season. I'm going to say that's a fluke. Denver, I think, is going to suck. I think Bo Nix is a terrible pick. I think he's in the wrong place in a bad situation. I'm not sure what Harbaugh is going to do with the Chargers because although he's won everywhere else, the Chargers always find a way to screw it up. And I'm not sure I actually believe in their quarterback.
It's gonna be a tough road for the Chargers next year.
I think so. So could the Raiders win 7-8 games? Sure. But are they going to make a deep playoff run? No. So does quarterback really matter? No. And frankly, if I'm the Raiders, I don't want to win a lot of games next year because I want to be in position to draft a great quarterback. Jeremy.
I got to start off by saying I don't really agree with a 3 to 5 year rebuild window for this team, only because of what I saw this team do last year. Were they great? No, but this team went 8-9 with a head coaching change early in the season and starting a 4th round rookie quarterback for more than half the season. Their defense went completely turned around into a top 10 defense in the second half of the season. And they did that with some young guys who just kind of started playing up to their level and potential. They added a great defensive lineman this year in the offseason. I think that defensive front can be killer. I still think they need to add some guys in the secondary. But as far as the offense goes, like you said, when you don't have a strong quarterback game, weapons. And they, like I said, they brought in one of the top offensive weapons, the number 1 tight end. They signed Michael Gallup as a 3rd wide receiver coming in from Dallas. They got a pass catching running back in the draft. They put a lot of weapons around whoever's going to start there.
Yeah.
And I think
they weren't going to get a quarterback in that draft either. So you're right. There was nothing else they could do, Jeremy, like you said. They were going to get a quarterback in that draft anyway. So they did exactly the right thing. Perfect.
No, I think they did exactly the right thing. Just pick the best players available, and they're building the inside out. They're building the offensive line. They're building the defensive line. It doesn't matter who you have at quarterback until you have a much better roster. But I don't. If this is the crazy thing about the NFL is the worst place that you want to be is picking between 12 and 18 every year, winning 7 or 8 games every year.
Mediocrity.
Because you just never get where you need to be. And honestly, if I was a Raiders fan, I would be voting for like a 1-win season. That would be like the thing that I would be looking forward to. And I would trade Devontae Adams at like the trade deadline to a team that's like hungry for a Super Bowl, needs a receiver, and I would stockpile draft picks and then get really aggressive next year in terms of going after a quarterback, really building the roster and having some money to spend in free agency and then being competitive. Jeremy's shaking his head. Okay.
Yeah, and I just, as a fan, I could never ask for a loss. I would never want my team to lose for draft picks. We had 6 quarterbacks go in the first 12 picks. By standards and what we've seen over the last 2-3 decades, one of those guys is going to be a superstar. 1. 2 or 3 of them are going to absolutely flop, possibly. That's just the averages of what we get with first-round quarterbacks. So, no, I don't want a 1-win season to maybe get the top quarterback who could or could not be great. Eventually, a quarterback will come. They'll find a way if they have to make some trades or do whatever they got to do.
I completely agree with Jeremy
I will never ask my team to lose.
When you're drafting quarterbacks, you're rolling the dice. It's never a sure thing. So in my opinion, there's no difference between number 1 overall and number 32 overall. And the best thing, in my opinion, the Raiders can do is be competitive as they can this season. Get Brock Bowers and the rookies in line with all they can get. Get Gardner Minshew to win 8, 7, 9 games. Sneak a playoff win and get the culture excited. Because if you have no fans behind you, you're not going to have any winning energy.
And then, can I ask a question then? Why did you trade Derek Carr?
Because Derek Carr is not a winning quarterback. He's the same as Gardner Minshew.
None of these other guys are either.
But you know what? Gardner Minshew had more wins last season than Derek Carr.
You can put right now Gardner Minshew's career stats right next to Trevor Lawrence. He has more wins and more touchdowns and less interceptions.
I've seen that
over the same amount of games. I'm just saying. I'm not saying Gardner Minshew is a savior, but whoever wins that competition, I think, is good enough to run this offense and get this team some wins.
Yeah, Tannehill brings a little experience. Minshew's got some guts. But again, remember that they weren't going to get a quarterback, so they're just filling it in, like Lou said. Yeah. Right now, build the rest of your roster, get it as good as you can. Then
that's what I'm saying. I think the teams that have been winning long term, they built from the inside out. Offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, running back, talent. Then they found the quarterback. By the way, speaking of UFL betting this weekend,
very smooth segment.
The Birmingham Stallions and the Memphis Showboats. That game started -11. It's now -13.5 for the Stallions. It's too many points for me. Stallions are going to win that game, but I don't like that big of a point spread. Roughnecks against the Battlehawks. Battlehawks at home -11. The Roughnecks are terrible. Take the St. Louis Battlehawks -15 to 16 in that game. Arlington Renegades, Michigan Panthers, 2 middle-of-the-road teams. Although the Renegades haven't won a game, the Panthers are only 3-2 and not that much better. I'm staying away. The San Antonio Brahmas at the DC Defenders. The Brahmas, despite losing their starting quarterback, have actually been better since he went down. I'm riding the Brahmas -1.5. Does anybody want to know what the Super Bowl odds are right now, post-draft?
Spit them.
Number 1, San Francisco 49ers +550, followed by, of course, the Chiefs. Ravens at +950. Look at what a big leap that is. Vegas thinks you're looking at a repeat. 49ers Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Ravens and then the Bengals at +1,300. The Lions at +1,300. The Bills at +1,300. The Eagles at +1,400. Dallas at +1,500. And interestingly, Houston Texans slightly worse than the Cowboys at only +1,600. Who I love in that right now, Detroit Lions +1,300 is where I would throw some money if I was looking at trying to get a windfall on a Super Bowl bet early right now. By the way, the largest team coming in to win a Super Bowl, well, one of them was the Raiders in 1980 at +7,500. They had just traded away Ken Stabler. Vinny Pastorini came in, and nobody gave the Raiders much of a chance. Jim Plunkett came in after Pastorini got his leg broken in 7,000 places, and the rest is history. Anybody have any thoughts on those Super Bowl odds?
Well, I like Detroit. I think they had a great draft. They improved a lot, and they didn't need that much improvement. Their coach just has to calm down a little bit. A little shorter leash for the coach. I think they'll be good. I like Detroit as well.
I got to say,
if I had to pick somebody, that would be it.
Yep.
I got to say, as long as the coach doesn't stink it up, I don't know what to expect this year out of him. I like Philadelphia at 1,400 with the way they improved in the offseason. I mean, all of a sudden, they've got Saquon Barkley. They've added to they had a great draft. I mean, their secondary is just completely rebuilt. So I like Philly at 1,400. It's just I'm worried about if that guy can coach or not.
Yep. You know what? Maybe it's just early optimism for me. I like that pick with the Texans a lot. With the odds just slightly worse than the Cowboys. You know, second-year quarterbacks usually get it done in greatness years. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, all them boys.
Yeah, by the way, Loud, did you hate New England when Drew Bledsoe was a quarterback? No.
No, ever since the
Nobody
NFL
cared.
cheated the Raiders in the tuck rule game, I have hated New England.
Yeah, that was terrible. I agree.
That was
That
bad.
was one of the worst calls ever in professional sports. I watched it live. I couldn't believe it when I was watching it. It was a rule that they created for the moment.
Rich Gannon got cheated out of that Super Bowl. He would have won it.
Good job.
That year he won it.
1 minute.
He deserved it that year. Rich Gannon got hosed. He should have won that.
Bad year. All right, boys. Any last words before the end of the show? We got about less than a minute.
You know, putting $200 and $200 on the Lions and the Eagles, if either one of those wins, you're going to make a lot of money, even with the 200 loss on one of them, because both can't win. But I like it. The Lions or the Eagles. And then also the Bengals are plus 1,300. I might be willing to put the bucket down on all of them right now.
Time for them to back.
Yeah, they I think he'll be healthy and they'll be jumping right back into the forefront.
Yeah,
They made some changes too, right? They made a few changes too.
Yeah.
That's going
All
to
right.
be
All right, everyone. This has been Steer Line. We will see you guys next week for another offseason recap.